This is, of course, my fourth budget debate, and I wish to start by commending, of course, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition for a top-grade delivery yesterday, and as well as all my other colleagues on this side of the floor. My constituents have, with one accord, said that this is the worst budget in their living memory in terms of its repercussions on their daily lives. This budget, of course, is subtitled Leadership in Times of Crisis, putting Barbados first. But this administration will be remembered as the one which exemplified a failure of leadership and which put themselves, their friends, and their political financiers first at the expense of the rest of Barbados. After 6 failed economic pathways to progress in 9 years, this cabinet now brings to this parliament the 37th, the 38th, and the 39th new tax or increase in an existing tax on the people of this country. The combined effect of an additional 8% increase in last year's introduced social responsibility levy, bringing it now to 10% taxation on all taxable imports and domestic goods and products, with an automatic additional take of VAT, value-added tax, on every good, means that the cost of living in this country will increase from next month by about 15% across the board. Having not been able, Madam Deputy Speaker, to reduce the public sector workers' salary by 10%, as a result, of course, of the BLP's last administration's constitutional amendment, this administration now imposes a 10% national social responsibility levy on the people. So they found a way, Madam Deputy Speaker, to reduce the salary of public sector workers by 10% by imposing an additional 10% tax on them. The proposed increase from today of excise tax on gasoline by 25% and on diesel by 225% will astronomically further increase the cost of every facet of doing business in this country. This will take place in a situation where this country is already at 119 out of 189 countries on the 2016 World Bank Doing Business Report, down from 72 in 2012 and 106 in 2015. The 2% commission on the rate of foreign exchange and transactions on credit cards and wire transfers and over-the-counter sales of foreign exchange currencies effectively means that the Barbados dollar has been devalued against foreign currencies, including against the United States dollars, that we hold so sacrosanct at a 2-to-1. The Barbados dollar, because of this excise tax, now stands at $2.04 to $1 US. Effectively, all renowned economists of modern day and every successful global leader in recent times, including President Barack Obama, who said that the last thing you want to do is to raise taxes in the middle of a recession, because that would just take more demand out of the economy and put business in a further hole, tell us that this method that this government continues to pursue is doomed to continue to fail and to place the future social economic well-being of the vast majority of our constituents in jeopardy. Yet this DLP cabinet continues to justify Albert Einstein's theory that insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. This government is not proposing to ease, as the Honourable Member for St. James South said, and I listened to him very carefully on this point. This government is not proposing to ease the effect of these new financial burdens on the vulnerable householders in my constituency by increasing the reverse tax credit, which this government in fact reduced from $1,300 where it was to $650. and which has not been paid to by the majority of eligible citizens in this country for the last 2 years. It is not proposing to increase the old age pensions to buttress this additional 15% increase in the cost of living, in cost of food, items so necessary to sustain life that everyone would have to pay, especially old people who are earning no income. This government, this budgetary proposals are not proposing to increase unemployment benefits, nor are they proposing to increase disability benefits. The financial statements delivered 2 days ago are not proposing any system by way of which individuals still owed income tax returns and those businesses owed VAT returns or owed money by government for services rendered or for goods sold to the public will be promptly paid. This DLP administration is not proposing to now enact into law the provisions of the 2008 United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities to legislatively improve the lives of persons with disabilities, or to provide equal opportunities for them just as everyone else in this country. And we've been hearing about a proposed disabilities legislation since 2009, when the same Honourable Minister of Finance was then Minister of Social Care. For 8 years now, not one proposal legislatively to improve the lives of the most vulnerable people in this country, people with disabilities. This DLP administration is not proposing how, with an increased tax take of about $500 million, $500 million from these 3 new taxes, or increase in taxes. It is not proposing how it will clear off this country's debt of $200 million to the University of the West Indies, after the Honourable Minister of Education said in March 2013 in this same Parliament that $40 million would have been paid to reduce that debt every 4 months until all the arrears were paid in full. It is not proposing either, Madam Deputy Speaker, to restore the situation which existed for a half-century under both political administrations before 2014, whereby the state fully paid the tuition fees of every Barbadian at the University of the West Indies at the point of delivery of their education, so that poor people's children in Western, in Sion Hill, in the Wim, in Greenwich Village, could have attended the University of the West Indies again, rather than the present situation where there is a continuously decreasing number of Barbadians who manage to attend this institution, something that, as I say all the time, 13 of the 16 DLP members of Parliament may not have been able to go to, and may not have been in the position where they are now in, except for free tertiary education paid by the taxpayers of this country. This is a shame. And in September, this coming September, they will have to pay even more tuition fees, largely because this DLP government owes $200 million to the University of the West Indies and has it in a cash-strapped position. This government is not proposing either on how to expand vocational or technical education for our youth, since they've closed off entrance to the University of the West Indies. You would have thought then you would have buttressed vocational technical training, but not proposing that either, Madam Deputy Speaker. These budgetary proposals do not indicate any pathway to progress whereby we can arrest the decline in the quality of our educational system. We are now 22nd in quality of our educational system, according to the 2016 World Economic Forum Global Competitiveness Report, down from number 6 in 2013-14. In 3 short years, we have fallen from number 6 in the world in terms of quality of education to number 22nd, and continuing to decline. These proposals do not pronounce on how government plans to use the windfall of taxes to be now collected to address the ever-increasing national concern of school children on school children violence. A situation which reflects a complete failure of leadership of the Honourable Member for Christchurch West Central, Minister of Education. Christchurch East Central, the Minister of Education, as well as the Senator in the other place, his Parliamentary Secretary. The Education Minister's continuing refusal to personally meet with the teachers' unions is a national disgrace of the highest order. This Cabinet is not asking Parliament to approve any salary increase for any public servants for the first time in 8 years, after the DLP Cabinet Ministers, other DLP parliamentarians, the dozens of consultants throughout a stream of ministries and statutory corporations took back their 10% recently, though. Not only took it back, but retroactively from April last year. The Prime Minister, therefore, Right Honourable Prime Minister, getting $40,000 in back pay, and ministers getting $35,000 in back pay on the 10% retroactive a whole year. We BLP parliamentarians, as the Honourable Leader of the Opposition said and made a document of the House, say we ain't want none of that. If you can't get the people a 10% and you're putting a 10% additional tax on them here today, plus excise tax, plus foreign currency transaction tax of 2%, we ain't taking 10%. We donating it to the Salvation Army and the Diabetes Association, two of the most credible charitable organizations in this country, one of which I had the honor to represent on the board of directors before I was elevated to these chambers. These financial statements are not proposing how we can expand our national service program so that our young people can become more involved in voluntary character and life and work skills building community service, or how we can expand programs to advance resolution conflict in communities and among people. None of these things these budgetary proposals are proposing, which will augur to improve the lives of the vast majority of our constituents, the lives of the Barbadian public who we have been elected to serve. The Minister of Finance, Right Honourable Minister, has not proposed how we can use the novelty of this tax take here today, the biggest tax take in the history of Barbados, in one fell swoop. Revenues which the last Barbados Labour Party government never had at its disposal, because all this talk about how times are plenty and the BLP took in a whole set of money. In fact, the Barbados Labour Party never collected in any fiscal year, any financial year, as much money as is being proposed to be collected by this DLP administration. Yet we are not proposing here to enhance the status of the National Council of Science and Technology, which is some poor cousin right now in the Ministry of Education and Science and Technology and Innovation. We ain't proposing how we can use this tax state now to enhance the status of this council in order to place our nation in a position where it can become a center of excellence among small island developing states in this area and in the area of innovation, and potentially improve our economic growth in this matter. This government is not concerned about any of those things. This government has presided over an economy which is now the fourth most indebted in the world, where debt to GDP now stands at 145%, well over the recommended limit of 60%. Furthermore, our island has now slipped from 46 out of 141 countries in 2015 to 58 out of 136 countries in the 2017 World Economic Forum Travel and Tourism Competitiveness Report. In other words, the flagship of this government, the only or the major industry that they are saying is growing, is declining. That Barbados is now 58 out of 136 countries in the Travel and Tourism Competitive Index, down in a short space of 2 years after being 46 out of 141 countries. And Barbados was already among the worst for price competitiveness at 134 out of 141. And this budget, which of course increases the cost of living by 15%, also includes the cost of living in the tourism sector. So it will only make Barbados worse in terms of price competitiveness. But this government would not understand that increasing taxes every year, every budget, every opportunity is not the way to go. Stagnating growth, making things more difficult for the people of Barbados, while cabinet ministers, their friends, and their families become enriched at the expense of the public purse. The finance minister appears to be content to oversee an economy which only had 2 months of foreign reserves for import cover in February of this year. 639 United States dollars million, 629 million United States dollars. That is all we had in foreign reserves in February this year. 2 months cover, well below the 19 weeks cover which the country had in the worst days of the Sandiford administration in 1991-92. Furthermore, the Right Honourable Prime Minister continues to rubbish the multiple downgrades of our credit ratings. 19 successive credit ratings we have had under this administration. The Right Honourable Member for St. Michael North, like Nehru, has fiddled, while our previously highly respected country burns. This government, simply put, does not care a feather about the plight. St. Michael South, I will repeat it, St. Michael South has fiddled while our previously highly respected nation has burnt to the ground. This government, simply put, does not care a feather about the plight of the average Barbadian unless they can be used by them for campaign financing. That is a fact of the matter. Don't get tied up, fool yourself. The closure of the Western Fire Station is just the last of many, many examples of this. The latest in a series of examples of DLP's callousness towards the people. You could imagine that you close a fire station that is has become an institution in a community. A government department, and you close it, and you don't tell the people. You don't hold town hall meetings to tell the people. A shame on the Honourable Attorney General. You don't tell the Member of Parliament, well, I ain't nothing, I only keep noise. But at least you should tell the people in a town hall meeting that you're closing a government department of prime importance, one which it serves as an emergency operation. But you just close it down and move. Don't tell the people a thing. And you're going to come and ask the people for a vote? There is absolutely no way. I know whoever you send down there, when they come, they can run them from around there. But this Honourable Minister of Finance has a beef against lawyers. I mean, he demonstrated after Tuesday, talking about Bar Association president and lawyers who don't pay taxes and all of that. Always had a beef against lawyers. One would therefore have imagined that he would not have allowed a handful of lawyers to continuously charge vastly excessive and unjustifiable legal fees to statutory corporations, and not only charge but get away with being paid the fees. There is a cost committee of the Bar Association which can tax bills submitted by attorneys at law which are unreasonable. The fact that you may be a chairman of a tribunal and a close friend and former legal associate of the Prime Minister, or the fact that you may be the son of a former DLP Attorney General, or the fact that you may be a cousin of a cabinet minister, or the fact that you may be one of the chief canvassers of both the Prime Minister and the de facto Deputy Prime Minister, should not allow you to be paid legal fees in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, even $1.5 million for work where the scale of fees typically justifies only a 1/6 legal fee for the work done. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition made a document of the House, an invoice from one of these persons named the chairman of a tribunal, a close friend and legal associate of the Prime Minister, charging $1.5 million and then another $150,000 to the Barbados Water Authority that now wants to send up water rates and that for 2 years could not deliver water properly to people in 4 or 5 northern parishes, and madam, including your parish in the east. $1.65 million in total for work that, when you review, not even worth $250,000. I did one of these. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition spoke about her father doing one of these and charging, I believe, she said $150,000. I did one of these. I was lawyer for Barbados Water Authority at one time, and I did one of these transactions, and I charged just over $100,000, not $1.65 million. This is highway robbery and thievery of the money of the taxpayers of Barbados in an age when we are being strangled by this government, and a government and an Attorney General and a Minister of Finance sits back and let a group of 5 lawyers tied intricately to the Democratic Labour Party to continuously charge legal fees.
Of order, Madam Deputy Speaker.
Yes, Honourable Member.
The Honourable Member is misleading the Chamber. The Honourable Member knows very well that the only legal fees that the Attorney General is familiar with is persons who are contracted by chambers. The Honourable Member knows that and must stop misleading the Chamber.
Madam Deputy Speaker, there's something called collective responsibility of Cabinet, and I stand by what I said. All of this has direct implications, no doubt, for the financing of the Democratic Labour Party's election campaign.
Yes, Honourable Member for St. Philip South.
The member is again, and he's deliberately this time misleading the Chamber. The Honourable Member knows that the Barbados Water Authority, for example, is a statutory corporation and controlled by the directors and managers. And things like who they retain as attorney at law and the fees, they don't come to Cabinet. It has nothing to do with Cabinet.
Madam Deputy Speaker, I have a bit of knowledge of statutory corporations. I've been chairman of 2. And I know that these issues go to Cabinet, who is the lawyer for statutory corporations. Ma'am, this has direct implications, no doubt, for the financing of the next DLP's election campaign. This is one of the reasons why the Democratic Labour Party refuses to proclaim the Prevention of Corruption Act, which speaks out against campaign financing and makes information on who are your campaign financiers subject to a commission. This is one of the reasons why it does. You don't even know. Are you supposed to be an Attorney General? Madam Deputy Speaker, this is not about drinking alcohol. This is a serious debate. This can be the only reason why the Finance Minister is proposing a housing incentive. This will no doubt as well, this housing incentive that he proposed on Tuesday will no doubt as well go to the Big Four as an incentive to help funding the DLP's campaign too. This is a government that speaks about morality. However, a cabinet minister who continues to throw out the straw man of same-sex marriage when, as the Honourable Leader of the Opposition said, that is never been and is not and will never be the policy of the Barbados Labour Party to legalise it. But he continues to throw up this straw man. But he sees absolutely nothing wrong with driving in the absence of the Prevention of Corruption Act and Integrity in Public Life legislation, a luxury car, XG10, registered as was made a document to the House at the licensing authority in the name of Transtech. They the one who's always speaking about same-sex marriage. Registered in the name of Transtech, a company which his departments under his ministry do major contractual work. This is wrong, because when those things happen, there's always the possibility that such companies or businesses will increase, will inflate the price of their contracts to get back the favors that they give to the ministers, and all of this has to be paid by the taxpayer. So when we see that Grotto and what's the other one? Valerie, that millions of dollars in cost overruns, and then all that is normal government business.
Point of order.
Yes, honourable member.
Again, the members misleading the chamber. And both those projects, there were initial estimates. In fact, the member for St. Lucie was at pains in his presentation to point out yesterday why there was a change, because there were variations. And Valerie, for example, we did some units which were not originally scheduled for the disabled community. If the member would ever go in there, he will see and stuff. And the same thing in terms of Grotto, some changes that were not originally contemplated, and the member knows that.
Thank you,
Deputy Speaker, how much time do I get back because of the Attorney General's interventions, ma'am?
You have 5 minutes left.
Ma'am, the Minister of Finance, Madam Deputy Speaker, is very happy to sit in a parliamentary team with the Honourable Member for St. John, ma'am. See, together that Honourable Member with the Honourable Member for Christchurch East, quite frankly, has insulted the memory of Dame Nita Barrow, the first and only Governor General of this country, selected by a Democratic Labour Party administration who had no natural children as well. It is an insult, and quite frankly puts into question the fitness of anyone who speaks about that to be a representative not only of childless mothers but of mothers and of women, period. But that Honourable Member, Madam Deputy Speaker, was also an office manager of a law firm that invoiced $3.3 million in legal fees, with $2.8 million ending up in the hands of a man who breached the instructions of the insurance supervisor by still distributing insurance contracts in this land, and who was charged for so doing. No back charge on those legal fees. I don't know why the Honourable Minister of Finance does not speak about that and look into those fees. But that person, of course, happens to be a renowned pal of the late and the present Prime Ministers of Barbados. So it's all right. This Democratic Labour Party team, of course too, of which the Honourable Minister of Finance is a part and does not like lawyers, but is satisfied with having an attorney at law, Queen's Counsel at that, at the rank of number 9 in our order of precedence, preside over the highest forum in this land, despite a court order being made against him for withholding over $200,000 for over a decade from a physically disabled man in his late 70s. This government said that its administration would be categorized by good governance, yet it sees nothing wrong with presiding over a situation where every year the Auditor General highlights millions of dollars missing, unauthorized government transactions, misplaced funds, flawed contracts between government and private entities. There has been no attempt in this presentation to address these infelicities for which the Barbados taxpayer continues to pay daily. The Auditor General, as all others under this regime, highlights defective, extremely defective public sector administration and or fraud for which this cabinet is ultimately responsible. The present situation whereby three cabinet ministers are refusing to appear before the Public Accounts Committee, which is examining infelicities at the NHC, is a national scandal.
Honourable Member, your time is up. Will you complete
Ma'am,
now?
can I just wind up, ma'am? Can I just wind up, ma'am? This Democratic Labour Party looks to the past for their halcyon days under the Right Excellent Errol Barr regime. We believe in the Barbados Labour Party, on the other hand, that Barbados' best days lie ahead of us, when, with the people's will, a Barbados Labour Party administration headed by the Honourable Member for St. Michael North-East, together with the best quality of candidates ever presented to the voters of Barbados on any one political platform, will be elected to serve as the government of this nation.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Please take your seat.
I'm obliged to you, madam.
Honourable Member for Christchurch East.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker.